What's up, guys? Today we're going to be working on the S10 again. Big surprise. But actually, before we get working on the S10, we got to do a little bit of work on the Nova. If you notice in some of the other videos of the Nova, it's having some starting issues, which I've pretty much narrowed it down to an ignition switch. If you don't know, here's what it does. Of course, now it'll probably start. No. There we go. All we're doing is clicking. I figured out though that if I cross it at the starter, it turns over no problem. And there's a couple wires by the fuse box that actually go to the starter. I bared them in a couple spots, and if I touch something to those two, it starts no problem. Narrowed it down to the ignition switch. So I ordered one. Here it is. Brand new. Got it off Amazon. It was cheap, like 17 bucks. So I think we're gonna put that in first. Hopefully that'll cure the starter problems. Then after that, we're gonna get to work on the truck. You'll see the rear end here. You see I got the gear set in. That's because I ordered the axles the other day, and I ordered them from a company out of the US called Dutchman Axles. I was gonna get Mosier ones, but the Dutchman ones were actually a better deal, so I ended up getting them from there. So they'll be here in about a week, which means we got about a week to get the rear end in the truck. After the ignition switch deal, these are all the brackets that I cut off the 7.5, and as you can see, they just need to be smoothed out, but they also need to be, this is actually part of the rear end that I cut off. They don't fit, so they need to be opened up a bit so that they'll fit in there. And these are the upper bag brackets, also need to be opened up. This 4-link kit is from used to be called suicidedoors.com, now they're called thorbeckbrothers.com. or Thorbeck Brothers, whatever, but that's their website, .com. This is the back brace that came off the 7.5, and it bolts to the rear end here with these first half of the bolts. And actually the new one that he sells bolts all the way around, but this is like an early kit. This was called the Weld It Your Damn Self kit. Probably one of the first kits that they actually offered. Obviously it's been on there for a long time, so I have to adapt that bracket to this rear end. So from a 7.5 to an 8.8, and it's pretty close. The main first bolt lines up, and then these ones are off a bit, so I'm gonna have to re-drill them or something. So kind of once these brackets are ready, the next thing to do will be to get that fit, because once I get that fit to the housing, I can actually put it back in the truck and hang it off these brackets, which will line the rear end up where it needs to go. Put the bags back on, put the bag brackets on, get them to the rear end, and then those will kind of drop into place. I can tack them, and then I'll just have to do the bottom bars. So hopefully it should go pretty fast, but I mean, who knows, right? So yeah, let's get to work. All right, so changing this ignition switch is pretty straightforward, but pretty shitty because, as you can see, the roll cage does not allow, it makes it a pain in the ass to get in here. But I dropped the 2 bolts that drop the steering column. 4 bolts hold this bracket on, and then up here, the ignition switch is just right there. There's that little bolt, and there's another little bolt on the other side. So yeah, I am going to take this off and then that off and get the switch up. I took those 2 bolts out. There it is. Just take these couple plugs, unplug them, and then stick the new one in, basically. I'm pretty sure this is original. I've never changed it, and I've owned this car for a long time. Hopefully this is gonna solve my problem. Pretty much looks the same. It's got this extra tab. I believe that over the years, as they upgrade them, they still make them fit. They just upgrade them, right? So that's why there's this extra tab. That could be for something on a newer car. Looks like she should bolt in, so let's get it in there. There's the new one in there. And I'll just put this brace back on and the other 2 bolts, and we'll find out if it works. All right, so here's the moment of truth. I turn the power back on. Let's see what happens. And nothing. Maybe there's some adjustment that I need to do, because it goes all the way down and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't even turn over now. So I'll have to get under there and take another look. You can see these holes are slotted, and I knew this, but anyways, I just had to loosen these 2 bolts and kind of move it forward a little bit. So she's working now, but I haven't tried to start it yet, so let's give her a try. Okay, so let's see what happens now. water pump off. And same thing.
Goddamn son of a bitch!
Well, so that's interesting. If you pop the hood, I bared these two wires down here that go to the starter. And actually, if I just touch them, see? Turns over no problem. It's definitely not the starter. It's definitely not the wiring from the starter to the fuse box area. It's something between there and the ignition switch that which I just put in, which should have worked. So I don't know what else is in there that's not giving it the proper voltage to start the engine. So back to the drawing board on that one. I'll have to try to think of something else. All right, guys, so I figured it out, believe it or not. So what it is that the ignition switch, which is a purple wire coming out of the ignition wire, I should say, coming out of the ignition switch is a purple wire. It goes to a plug, which is supposed to be for your neutral safety switch, which originally plugs in down at the bottom of the steering column. And then because I have an aftermarket shifter, it goes to the aftermarket shifter to a micro switch. I checked voltage there. On the one side, I had like 11 volts. And on the other side, I was only getting like 8. So then I disconnected the wires going to the neutral safety switch, ran a wire between them, a thicker wire, starts no problem, every time. Here, I can even show you. I got the fuel pump disconnected right now, but sweet, like no problem at all. So either the micro switch is bad, and that's causing my issue, or it could be the wires going from the neutral safety switch to this plug. The original plug that went to the bottom of the steering column, I just put spade connectors in there, so that could even be making a bad connection. So I'll probably cut that off and put new wires and run them to the micro switch, see what that does. Hopefully that fixes it, or I'll get a new micro switch. It's definitely good to know that I figured something out. I don't mind changing the ignition switch. It was only like 17 bucks. That was probably the original one in there, which obviously it still worked, but I guess maybe with these new LS starters or something, it needs a certain amount of voltage to crank over, because I never had this issue with the small block, I don't think, or did I? You know what? I might have even had an issue with it before I changed the engine with it clicking like that, I think. Not 100% sure, but anyways. So now I'm going to change those wires and we should be all good to go. All right, so I bypass it right to the neutral safety switch, which is actually right here. One of these is the neutral. This one's the neutral. This one's for the reverse lights. Bypass it all the way to there and it still didn't work properly. So I ended up taking this wire harness out. This orange wires are the ones that go for the starter. I guess they're just too small. So I'm gonna run something thicker, redo this little harness and then reinstall it and see what happens. So here's the new wires I'm using. This is 16 gauge. I heat shrunk, or I soldered the ends on and heat shrunk them. And then a couple zip ties. This is for the reverse lights, which I've also been having some issues with them not working, so I'm going to redo those wires too. They were all kind of, you know, not the greatest, so I'm going to redo all the wires and then put these all together nice and then put it back in the truck. Car, I mean. Put them back in the car, not the truck. All right. So there's the neutral safety reverse and the wires, which are going to plug into those plugs. So now I'm going to stick it back in the car and then let's hope that it works good. Kind of at a loss right now. So I redid the wiring, I put it in, still doesn't work. If I connect the two wires under the dash, it seems to work. But if I hook it through the neutral safety, and even if I bypass that neutral safety switch, just connect the two together, it still doesn't go. So I don't know if the wires aren't thick enough and I'm getting too much voltage drop, or if there's a reason there's not enough voltage going through the switch maybe? I don't know. I'm going to keep looking at it, but not 100% sure. Someone said, I read on a forum, that the wire where it goes through the fuse box, to kind of get rid of that and just run a wire straight through, because maybe where they connect there's corrosion and it's not connecting good. So I mean, I could try that too, I guess. I gotta think about this for a bit. So what I ended up doing now is I took the wire, which you can't really see, but it's the purple wire that comes out of the fuse box and it goes to the starter. So I ended up cutting it off and running a new wire, nice thick wire, through the firewall up to where the starter wires connect, bypassing where it goes through the fuse box, figuring if it was something with the connection there or something. So now I have it hooked up totally with the neutral safety switch and everything, and it seems like it starts almost every time. Every once in a while it'll give one click and then it'll go. Let's see what happens right now. Oh, and I turned the power off. Derp. Let's turn the power on. Okay, and then we'll try and start it now and see what happens. See, so it seems like maybe it'll click once and then it'll go. So I really don't know. I'm just gonna leave it like that for now because I'm kind of out of options. If any of you guys have any ideas or ever ran into this same problem, I know with the shit horse we have this problem, but we think that is because we bypassed the stock Ford solenoid and went right to the starter. I mean, I could put a Ford solenoid on here and try that and see if that would help, but I don't know. At least it seems like it's working better now. At least it starts from the key. Maybe it clicks once, big deal, but it goes. Until I can come up with a better plan, I'm just going to leave it like that. Unfortunately, we didn't get any work on the S10 done today. I thought this was going to be like a 15-minute job. You know, just put the switch in and we'd be good to go. Obviously, that didn't happen. I guess we'll continue, or not continue, but I guess we'll end this video today, and then we'll start a different one tomorrow when we're working on the S10. I don't know if this helped anybody. Maybe it did. I don't know. Kind of fixed it. Sort of works now. So, yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends if you like what you see, and we'll check you later.